Tales Under the New Moon are a series of short stories from Final Fantasy XIV. Today's story is Footprints of a Traveler. This story was released during Dawntrail and has both spoilers from the Endwalker story and the Endwalker Alliance raid. But now let's read Footprints of a Traveler. The Song of Oblivion, which had wrought untold ruin upon Etheris, had been silenced once and for all. In the wake of this joyous event, the Traveler and his brethren had convened at the heart of the realm to discuss the future of the star for the last time. At length the proceeding came to an end, with the inseparable siblings who chaired the assembly directing their closing words at Ochon. "May your final journey be fulfilling," Nymeia said, with a smile gentle as starlight. To this her brother Althyk added, his voice tinged with hope, "We look forward to receiving the adventure here in Omphallus." Ochon said not in answer, choosing only to nod. In that moment he was overcome by emotion, and he knew that it was the same for the others. Thaliak was relieved that man's history would endure, as he was proud of those who had fought to preserve it. Azeyma's breast swelled with the elation that after so very long, Venat's plan had succeeded. Alone and Menphina meanwhile shared in their ardent admiration of their children's courage, and fondly spoke of the day the starship Ragnarok had set sail for the edge of existence. How they had hoped that the mankind would triumph, and how they had hoped now that their long-held wish would be fulfilled. The wish that their ether, accumulated over millennia of prayer, would be restored to the star as a blessing both for those who lived and those yet unborn, and that their core, forged from the soul of Venat's stalwart allies, would return to the ethereal sea to arise as new life. With the final days averted, they had concluded that the time was right to take the necessary step to face and be felled by their beloved children. Byregot and rhalgr promptly set about preparing the stage for what would be the first and only battle. Llymlaen transformed into a seabird and took wing for llymlaen, that she might gaze upon the deeds of her faithful one more time. And assuming his guise as the mortal Deryk, Ochon set forth from Omphallus to enlist the aid of the heroes central to their plan. Although accorded dominion over mountains, Ochon was better known as the deity of travel, he who roamed the star and shared in men's solitude. In his role as the Wanderer, he had spent more time without the god's domain than within, and was careful ever to re-enter the world of men where he had left it. With this precaution, he took lest rumors spread about a peculiar traveler capable of vanishing and manifesting at will, unlike the realm's many etherite-bound adventurers. So it was that he first teleported to a quiet corner of Treespeak in the Twellswood. The nearby fauna scattered in shock at his sudden appearance, but no other eyes were present to bear witness. He took a deep breath, then set off westward with the nonchalance of a traveler carrying on after a rest. It was not long before he heard the rushing of Murmur Rills, the river and marked the start of the Alder Springs. Prior to gathering in Omphallus, Deryk had sojourned nearby in Hurstmill, and had been able to enjoy several relaxing days in the area unremarked. Despite the hamlet's relative seclusion, thanks to the steady stream of adventurers who passed by it, during that time he had become acquainted with the local woodwalers, and was thus favoured with warm smiles by those standing guard when he crossed over the bridge. As he proceeded along the forest trail, his eyes narrowing against the descending sun, Deryk pondered the route ahead. It was but a short distance to Coerthas, and thence to Mordona, where, posing as an explorer, he would approach the sons of St. Coinac with the claim that he had discovered the entrance to the mythical Phantom Realm. Far too brief of a journey. The words rose unbidden to his lips, and he knew a pang of melancholy. To ensure that his quarry undertook the request, their meeting needed to seem natural. He could not simply seek out the now disbanded Scions of the Seven Dawn, much less their champion directly. Given said individual's keen intuition, Deryk knew his true identity was not like to remain hidden for long. Thus would he contrive to have the petition reach the students of Baldascian by way of closely connected organization. Such was the plan that Thaliak and nald'thal had conceived, and the reason Deryk was now bound for Mordona. But that it could have been somewhere farther away. He looked down at the trail upon which he walked. The passage of innumerable feet had trodden the earth into a hard-packed path, much as the weight of a momentous event. One layer upon the other had defined the course of mankind's history. As a god, he yearned to become one with all the souls in the ethereal sea. But as a traveler, he could not deny that a part of him still yearned to continue exploring the star and observing men as they made their way. As such thought tugged at his mind, Deryk passed through the gates of Rhalgr Float. Built upon a lake, lest any tree be felled, this village was famed for the hospitality of its inn. Its location made it a popular waypoint for travelers and merchants en route to Coerthas, and even now a group of adventurers could be seen at the Etherite on the central isle. He could not help but smile as he skirted the crowd, close enough to regard them, but far enough to escape their notice. And it was then that someone called out to him. "Here, you're not heading out now, are you?" He turned toward the voice to see a man sitting on a bench, likely a resident of the float. "Only it gets dangerous after dark. You'd be better off staying the night at the Bobbing Cork, if you ask me." Somewhat bemused, he glanced up to see the night had indeed begun to fall, and that the lampposts were already aglow throughout the village. Thank you for your concern," he replied, eventually finding his words. "But I must press on. I am in some haste, you see." It was true enough. Deryk's brethren had bid him find the adventurer as soon as possible. But quite apart from that, he could not bring himself to deprive another of a bed. As one of the 12, it was only natural that he placed the needs of mortal before his own. The kindly resident's gaze drifted down to Deryk's feet, and it appeared as if he had something else to say. But after a moment's silence, he seemed to think better of it and bade Deryk safe travels. He thanked the man once more before taking his leave. The scenery changed dramatically instant he stepped out of Rhalgr Float. This area had once been home to lush and towering forests like the rest of the Twelveswood, but large swath of it had since been laid waste by the fragment of Dalamud, which had rained down during the 7th umbral calamity. What met his gaze was a scarred land, whose bowels lay exposed, with naught remaining of its ancient residents save jagged stumps and gnarled roots. For the benefit of the Twelveswood's surviving inhabitants, however, the roads were still maintained and patrolled, and taking advantage of the rent earth, industrious souls now gathered here in drove in hope of striking rich mineral veins. Truly the children of man are nothing if not resilient. Determined to reach Coerthas before the last light faded, Deryk made to quicken his step, only to be stopped in his track by a familiar voice. "Ere you go any further, there is something you may wish to know." He spun on his heels to spy a hovering seedling with a pair of hand-like vines raised to his chin, and recognized it at once as Nophica's avatar. "That you should call me out here," he began, his brow darkening. "What is it?" "Pray, look down," Nophica instructed, her tone amused. Deryk did as he was bidden, and immediately noticed a baby opo-opo by his feet. Trembling faintly, it grasped the corner of his cloak with a tiny hand, and looking squarely up at him, let out a pleading whimper. His eyes widened in surprise. Have you been following me, little one? Since when?" "Since before Rhalgr Float," Nophica answered in the creature's stead. "Its pack fell prey to a beast of the forest, leaving it orphaned and wounded. And when it saw you passing by, it decided to follow you." As the patron deity of Gridania, Nophica had no doubt come to watch her faithful while their brethren made their preparations, and in the course of her observations she must have caught sight of him, along with his unexpected companion. Since you seemed entirely oblivious to his existence, I thought it best to bring it to your attention before you went too far. That's all, I shall be on my way now. And without another word, Nophica transformed into an orb of light and vanished into the darkening wood. Deryk regarded the opo-opo, his face the picture of consternation. The creature returned his gaze unflinching, trust and expectation plain in his large, innocent eyes. Alone and wounded as it was, it could not long survive in the forest, and to turn it away would be to betray his faith in him. Very well, with the time I have left this man, I can at least keep you company. Thus resolved, Deryk resumed walking, using the light of a nearby lamppost to guide his steps. The frontier guard tower soon came into view. He ascended the rise that led to it, the opo-opo scampering after him, and announced himself to a wood dweller warming himself by a campfire. Might the travellers share the fire a while? My little companion here has come to some harm, and I would tend to his hurt, he said, gesturing to his charge. The sentry assented with a chuckle and waved for Deryk to sit on one of the tree stumps that served as a seat. This he duly did, and taking the opo-opo into his arms, quickly located a deep gash on his hip. When injured, he knew wild animals were wont to move normally so as not to appear vulnerable to would-be predators, but such a wound must have been painful to conceal. Deryk rummaged in his knapsack and produced a pot of healing ointment, a gift from a merchant who had worried that he travelled too lightly. He applied a generous amount to the wound, glad of the chance to make use of it, and noted with satisfaction how the opo-opo ceased trembling and settled on his lap. It certainly trusts you, the sentry observed, grinning. Now, assuming you intend to head through the pass, I would let your companion rest a spell. You might yet return to rhalgr, but if you do not mind the lack of comforts, you are welcome to stay at the spire. We always enjoy hearing the tales of travellers. Deryk took in the sky as he considered the option. Night had well and truly set in, and the stars glinted like jewels scattered upon a veil of black. To press on to earth as now would be punishing on the baby opo-opo. This time it would be wise to heed his host's suggestion, he concluded. A tale in repayment for his kindness, then. The one he had overheard at a tavern in Ul'dah, perhaps, about those individuals known as inspectors who dealt with all manners of mysteries, or of his visit to Alamico in the days following his liberation, or... As he gazed the flickering flames, searching the well of recollection, fragments of a distant memory came rising up. A woman with whom he had shared a campfire in the wilderness. She too had gazed into the flames as he passionately spoke of joys of roaming free, of seeing new lands and meeting new souls as he journeyed the star in search of problems to solve. He cast his mind to the past, present and future, to that woman who so loved the world, to the loyal comrade who shared her dreams, and the adventurer in whom she had entrusted her hopes. Would they forgive him this indulgence and let him enjoy his final journey just a little while longer? The opo-opo shifted in his lap and began to snore. Well, that settles it. With glinting eyes, he looked around at the gathering whalers and cleared his throat. That was the story Footprints of a Traveler. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, maybe give me a commendation by liking and subscribing. And maybe check out my playlist where I'm reading through all of the official Final Fantasy short stories. But for now, all I want to say is takk fyrir að horfa og eigðu yndislegan dag.